Hi again, everyone. I apologize for the length of this video. I don't usually do long videos, and I don't really like watching videos that are too long. But these are the albums that I've picked up from that fella that where I got the Bob Seger back in '72 album yesterday, and he gave me all of these. I asked the fella at a yard sale if he had any albums, and he said, well, around the back of the house I've got some kind of underneath my deck. He said they're water damaged, and he said you can just have them, just take them, just go through the boxes, take whatever you want out of them. So he took me around the back, and I looked at the records, and one of the boxes was just totally white, just totally damaged, warped, stained, mold, all kinds of stuff. But the other two boxes weren't that bad, and I pulled out a stack of really, really good albums from this, and he said just take them away. I'm happy to get rid of them. So this is going to take a few minutes to go through, but there's some interesting stuff here. I'll try to be brief, especially with these Canadian albums. The first few are Canadian here. Crowbar, Heavy Duty. This is from about 1972, I would say. It's on Daffodil Records. Mainline, which is McKenna Mendelssohn Mainline. It's from Toronto, Canada. It's our home and native land. The Hans Stamer Band, and I've never heard this album before, but I've seen the album. It was recorded in Vancouver, I believe. Vancouver band, I think. Lawrence Hudd, his solo album. As far as I know, it's the only album he recorded, but it has the original version of a song called "Sign of the Gypsy Queen," which was later recorded by April Wine on one of their albums. It was a bit of a hit here in Canada. Saga in Transit, which I believe is a live album by Saga. And it says in the back, this album is completely digital, which is really not analog, isn't it? Canadian group, kind of country rock, called the Good Brothers. This is a double live album that they released in the early 80s. Their sons, the Good Brothers' sons, are now recording as the Sadies here in Canada. David Ray, By the Grace of God. This is on True North Records, the same label that Bruce Cockburn recorded for. And it's from 1972. And I think David Ray was a folk singer from Toronto who was around in the 60s with Gordon Lightfoot and later on people, Joni Mitchell, and people from the Toronto folk scene. It's the only album I've ever seen of David Ray's. Joey Gregorash. I don't know if he had a hit in the States, but in Canada he had a hit single with a song called Jody that's on this album, North Country Funk. And it sounds just like, the song Jody sounds just like Creedence Clearwater or John Fogerty. Now the rest of the albums here are not Canadian records, but they're just really interesting albums and good stuff. I'm really pleased to pick these up. UFO, Obsession. I think it's from 1978. The Dillards, Roots and Branches. The Gatefold. Now the Dillards were country rock, and they used to hang out in the 60s. I think they hung out with the Byrds and stuff. Gene Clark released an album or two with the Dillards. This is on Anthem Records too, which is not the same Anthem Records as the Canadian Anthem with Rush and Max Webster. It's a previous Anthem Records. Steel Eye Span, Commoner's Crown. British folk, a little bit of electric too, really good group. Maggie Pryor was the singer. Redbone, Message from a Drum. And this album has The Witch Queen of New Orleans. Big hit. This one's sealed. Mary Hopkin, Those Were the Days. And it might be a compilation. It's on Apple Records. Those Were the Days, Goodbye, Tema Harbor. Those were all singles by Mary Hopkin. "10 Years After," the late Alvin Lee. This is their album, Shush. The Strawbs, Grave New World, on A&M. This is also a gatefold, really nice cover inside. It's the first Procol Harum album, although this is a reissue. The original one is just it had a black cover, just like the front here. This is a reissue, probably from the late 70s, with whiter shade of pale. And there are 3 albums here by another late artist, John Entwistle. This one is called Rigor Mortis sets in. There's a coffin. John Entwistle had a very black sense of humor. Whistle Rhymes. Nice covers on these. And Smash Your Head Against the Wall. This one's a cool find. It's Muddy Waters. It's McKinley Morganfield, which was Muddy Waters' real name. And it's a double album on chess, although in Canada it was distributed and pressed by GRT Records. Double Greatest Hits album. And I think it's kind of similar to, say, Chuck Berry's Golden Decade. Although this one, it says that it wasn't reprocessed for stereo. The mono tracks are mono. I think this is about the 2nd or 3rd Sha Na Na album. It's recorded live in 1971. Here's an artist I've never heard of before. Looked interesting. It's called Sam Neely. Neely 2, which I suppose is his 2nd album. It's on Capitol Records, I believe. And I noticed on the musicians on here, there's actually Hal Blaine playing drums on this. The great Al Cooper, but not Alice Cooper. Naked Songs. Jefferson Airplane, the Bark album. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the paper bag that originally came with, that enclosed this album. Quincy Jones, You've Got It Bad, Girl. And as you saw, if you've been watching my videos, I had the Peggy Lipton single the other day, so this is kind of a follow-up. Here's an earlier Al Cooper. It's the Blues Project live at the Cafe A Go-Go. This is a fellow who I know very little about, Mark Benno. Although I think he might have played at Woodstock. I know I have another album where he's teamed up with Leon Russell. It's called The Asylum Choir. But this is a Mark Benno album called Ambush. I mean, I picked up some of these just on spec. I'd never heard of them before, like this one here. It's called Eggs Over Easy is the name of the band. It's from about 1972. It's good and cheap. Now, what's interesting about this, and I haven't played it yet, is the fact that it was produced by Link Wray. Here's a very cool one. It's a kind of British invasion. It's the Tremolos, Suddenly You Love Me. Really, really great psychedelic cover there, and Suddenly You Love Me was one of their hits from the mid-60s, probably 67 or so. It's nice to get that in stereo as well. Here's another band that I've never heard of. It's on ABC. It's called Wool. Kind of a funny cover there with a sheep plugged into the wall socket with the legs of the guys in the group. Apparently one of the guys in the band's name was Wool. And it's considered to be kind of a little bit rare psychedelia. And the nice score, another nice score out of this lot was Arthur Lee, his solo album called Vindicator from 1972. Arthur Lee is guitarist, songwriter for Love, Forever Changes, the great album from back around 1966 or so, 67. And this is his solo album. I remember seeing this back in the 70s, but it's the first time I've seen a copy since then. So thank you for watching, everyone.